Hello, good night. My name is Ramphal. I'm a licensed master social worker. So this video is more geared towards parents or grandparents or godparents or caretakers of anyone who are looking after kids um, who are home from school during this corona pandemic, right? And the reason for this video is to kind of help foster an environment where it is comfortable for both the kids and the parents, because as we know, this is a struggle for the children and for the parents, because there are so many changes that is happening. There are instances where parents do not have the resources or they cannot provide appropriate care for the children. So what happens, they have to quit their job so that they can be able to take care of their kids who is now home from school. Then you have the kids who are home from school and they do not have their peers around them, and then they maybe they can't express themselves or communicate with their parents or siblings the same way that they will do for their peers. And now, everyone is at home, and sometimes there can be like a lot of tensions between the parent and the child, right? So we just want to make sure that whatever we do is creating a place that it would not be a stressful period for the parents and for the child, but that they can come to a place where there can be togetherness, oneness, and children can feel safe. So the first thing that we want to think about is creating a place of creating an affirming and safe and secure place for the child. So when we talk about creating like an affirming place for the child, right? Sometimes when children go to school, they hear positive feedbacks from their teachers, they hear positive feedbacks from their friends. Maybe this is a place where this is the only time when they see that their dreams might be becoming a reality, because maybe when they're home, maybe they're being criticized, maybe they're being ridiculed, maybe they're being feeling like they're less than, right? We just want to make sure that when children are home, when they're in our presence, we always want to be able to point out their strengths and the things that they're doing well, because we do not want to point out the things that they're not doing, because then what that does, it creates a place within them where they feel like they come from a place of deficit, where everything that they do is never enough or never good enough. And then what happens, they continue to go through life thinking that, well, everything that I do is not going to be good enough, right? And a lot of these things can come from criticizing kids or putting down kids for any effort that they choose, right? And sometimes, a lot of parents or caretakers might think, well, I'm not really doing this on purpose, but I just want you to really think about the way that we even speak to kids in terms of affirming all the good things that they do, right? Another thing that we want to do is to let children have that outlet to let their voices be heard. And the thing is with children, sometimes a lot of grown-ups think, well, they can't learn from children or whatever, and children learn from them, and there's this power struggle and power dynamic that's going on. We want to make sure that that is a myth, because as adults there are a lot of things that we can learn from children just by observing them, right? When they are home, it is good to foster that environment where they can come and they can speak to you about things that are happening and things that are going on. Because think about it this way, and I'm saying kids, but I'm also talking about teenagers. I'm talking about all the kids who are home, all the children who are home from school, and teenagers and youths and everyone, right? If they don't have an outlet where they can come and speak and be, then they would not be able to fully be themselves. And sometimes at school, right, maybe school is the only place where they feel that their voices are heard. Maybe in school is where they feel that they can have an outlet with their friends, they can talk to their friends, they can talk to the guidance counselor, they can speak to the teacher, they can speak to the social worker, they can do all of these things. So how about as they are home, we try to allow them to open up without casting judgments on them, without ridiculing them or saying anything to them. Allow them to have that space where they can come and they can express themselves, they can express their emotions and how they feel, and let it be, and be able to take this time to discuss it. Think about it this way: you're home, they're home, right? And both of you are home together. There's no better way to kind of take this time to get to know each other, to get to spend some time with each other, because there are things that you would discover about your child or the children that you are caring for that you might not discover unless you spend the time with them. And now you have that time that you can spend with them, so allow them to be able to voice. Another thing is, depend on the developmental stage of a child. There is this idea of taking power and control, right? And taking initiative to solve problems and to get involved in doing things, right? And then what happens is that if they're not involved and if they're not taking initiative to do things, or we try to put them down or show or tell them what to do, then what happens, sometimes they feel inferior. So we don't want to create that place of them feeling inferior. We want to be able to build them up. So as kids, it is natural for them to want to explore, for them to want to be able to dig deep, for them to be able to want to do things, right? As long as there's adequate supervision on the with the children, where they can explore and they can, if they want to build a take Legos and build something with the Legos, then so let them be. What I'm saying is like not policing them every minute, every hour, and then making these comments. Like, let them explore, but you're just making sure that there is adequate supervision when no one is hurting themselves or anything like that. Another thing that we want to be able to do, I know we spoke about the idea of having a plan. So when we're creating these plans with the kids of the things that we would do the night before, even the morning off, you have a discussion with the child about the activities that you would do in the daytime, and you want to be able to break up these activities. So you want to be able to have some play and have some fun, but you also want to be able to let them do some learning or some lesson plans or whatever. Like I know some of the schools might give out packages. You want to be able to have that balance, right? And you want to be able also to not just tell the kid, well, you have to do this or do this or do that. You want to be able to create these plans together with the kid. Again, we're talking about the idea of the power and control, right? It is part of growing and exploring the world, right? You want to be able to create this plan with the child and with the kid, and both of you doing this together. So at the end of the day, it's not boring for you, it's not boring for them, but that you all doing things together. We want to also take into consideration the way and the manner of how we even discipline, of how we even speak. So for instance, right, what might be considered discipline in one culture might not be considered discipline in another culture. And when we are doing discipline, when we are disciplining children, we have to think of the reasoning behind what we do. So for instance, right, a kid does something, you get upset, you yell at the kid, they stop doing it, then 5 minutes later they do the same thing and you yell at them again. You see, the difference there is that we are not telling or educating the kids on what they're doing wrong, of why it's not okay. Instead, we're just yelling and doing all these things. So we just want to make sure that if we are going to have the moments where we have to discipline the kid, then we can use positive ways to actually discipline them. So where you remove something that the kid might like, right? You remove it for you take it away from them basically, because they once get pleasure in this specific thing. You take it away from them, and basically until the behavior lessens, right? So let's say if a kid is I don't know, coloring on the wall, and you're like, don't do that, right? You take away that iPad or that thing that they like, right? And you keep it away from them for a while until that behavior decreases. And then what you do, you explain to them why you take that away and why that is not good. You just don't yell at them, right? This is basically a point that I wanted to make. So you kind of use different strategies and when you're disciplining the kid. Another thing also is that in homes, maybe there are disputes between a husband and wife, or mother and daughter, whatever disputes they have. So what happens is that a child is very observant of what is happening around them. And while the kid is at home at this point in time, you do not want to take the arguments or the things you have going on between the grown-ups. And then when I say the things going on between the grown-ups, I mean more like the arguments between the grown-ups. So let's say you're a husband and a wife, or two significant others, or whatever, right? And you cursing out each other and you're doing all of these things, and that kid isn't that present. That is not good for the child, because it does a lot of harm to the child. Seeing both parents going at it and the kid is in the middle, they're hurting. You're hurting them by doing that. So if you have things to discuss with like a person or like an argument or whatever, speak on that matter when the child is not there. Speak on that matter, so we not interfere, with the child. Okay. Another also thing that we want to do is don't allow children to feel like they're a burden because they're a home. Some of us may not be, you know, there. Well, we're not there when they're in school. We don't know what they're doing and things like that. But if we constantly telling a kid, oh, you should be in school and you should do all these things or whatever, it might make the kid feel like they're a burden. So that you don't want a kid to ever feel that they're a burden by being home. You want to be able to flourish and establish that aspect that it is okay to feel safe and want to be home and that you are loved, right? One of the main things that a child needs is love, and to continue to grow up is to be loved. So you just want to make sure that you are, you know, doing these things and creating that safe space for the child where you give them enough time to do whatever they want to do with adequate supervision. You want to make sure that you create a plan for them every day. But again, both of you creating that plan, you having discussions about it. And then, the last thing that you also want to do is check in with them at the end of the day. At the end of the day, just check in with them to see how their day was, right? Strike conversations, sometimes it might mean, like if a kid doesn't want to speak, sometimes it mean playing a game with them and observing them, and maybe, a lot could come out from that conversation with them while they're playing a game or something. But at the end of the day, you always want to check in with the kid to see how he's doing, how's his day, if he wants to talk about anything, he or she, whoever they are, if they want to talk about anything, and just be, take this time to get to know your kid more and take this time to build a strong relationship with the child. And let's remember that we're all in this together. um, all right, so again, I'm gonna log off now. So feel free to like, to comment, and to share this video. And again, remember that one of the main priorities is to ensure the safety of the children. The safety of children. That's one of my main goals, one of my main concerns. All right, so again, have a good night, and take care. Bye.